You're at a government contracting event and you meet a guy. He's wearing khakis. He's got a blue button down shirt. He tells you about his company. It's in the IT solutions sector. And you have this immense feeling of deja vu. Didn't you just meet this guy? Well, yeah, you probably did. Because at these events, you meet this guy kind of over and over and over again. And there's so much remarkable similarity in a lot of the people that you talk to. And so I'm talking to my friend, Dr. Keisha, today, and we are going to chat about personal branding and how to stand out in industries like government contracting. Keisha, welcome.
Thank
Can
you,
you introduce
Erika.
yourself?
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Keisha Benson Woods. I am in the reverse mentoring business. What that
Awesome.
is when generations X, Y, and Z mentor traditionalists and baby boomers to solve cultural, business problems, challenges with the intent of building employee engagement, improving job satisfaction, and ultimately boosting and growing whatever the enterprise or the mission is.
Such a fantastic business idea. And you and I met at a networking event where both of us were very proudly living our personal brand. And I would say we're immediately drawn to one another. At least I was immediately drawn to you because we saw like minded souls. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Erika Dickstein with Spring Insight. So let's get into our topic. Why is personal branding important in the context of networking? Kish, you wanna start us out?
Sure. Well, I think you already said it. You go to a big event like the one we were attending, and there's so many people, and you do feel like you're running into that same prototype over and over again. They kind of have a uniform on, they kind of have the same language, they go through the same checklist. And so when you think about going to something like that, the intent is to make those connections. Well, how do you make connections when you look like everybody else, you sound like everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've been in the habit of doing is, kind of expressing myself just physically, the way I look. I've always been gravitated towards colors and, energy. Typically, I pick like a theme color that I'm going to wear every season. And so for 3, 4, 6 months, I'm kind of in that same color. So when I meet someone and then they see me again, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I remember you. I remember you. And so it's this whole thing about things that stand out are easier to gravitate towards. And so whether it's, this bright color, catchy eyeglasses, or the shoes that brought us together, it stands
Absolutely.
out. It stands out. And so now I will never forget. I will never forget that engagement. And it will help me also to remember what the valuable points of the conversation were from a business perspective.
That's exactly right. You really encapsulated that um, very well. It's, for me, personal branding and the purpose for personal branding really is to make you stand out, to make yourself memorable. People want to work with people that they like, that they are drawn to, that, even to some extent, who they want to emulate. And I don't know if you remember in that conversation, we had somebody walk up to us and say, these are the people who I want, this is the conversation I want to be a part of. These are the people who I want to be a part of. And I
Yes.
don't think people were necessarily walking up to khaki pants and saying the same thing. I'm not insulting khaki pants. If khaki pants are watching, I'm really, really, truly not insulting it.
You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started to tell us this, but how you live your personal branding. So you started to tell us about this. You gravitate for 3, 4, 6 months. So when I've seen you, you've been wearing pink. You told us a little bit about that. Are there other things you want to tell us more about how you live your personal brand?
Well, the other thing is, I think that living out your personal brand is not. It's also very much about building self-confidence, right?
Mm.
And so it's the way I am going to express myself has a lot to do with what are the things that make me feel my best. Because when I'm going to an event like that, or even if I'm just going to a one-on-one meeting and meeting a client, I want to feel empowered. I want to feel energized. I want to feel like my best self. And so for me, my best self is in my favorite color, which is orange. One of my other favorite colors is pink. And so, these are the things, just the small, subtle things that help me have that kind of confidence. I mean, I'm a fish out of water, a lawyer working in a field dominated by former military and engineers, right? So I kind of had this challenge over the 20 plus years of always trying to figure out how do I fit in, right? But then I realized it's not about fitting in, it's about standing out. It's the opposite, which is probably also why I'm so drawn towards reverse mentoring, because it is the opposite where the value comes in. It is not me hiding myself, but it's me celebrating the differences. And so I'm doing that, living out my personal brand, but it is very much aligned to the work I do every day and really my personal values and mission for today and for every day.
Well, I love that so much. I just love that answer. I'm just going to sit there and celebrate that answer for a second or two. And so, I would say answering the same question, how I live out my personal brand, with my hair, you can pretty much tell my hair's purple. And it's funny because I would normally respond to this question by saying that I'm always the person who has the most interesting shoes in the room. But I believe my opening line in coming up to talking to you was, darn it, I always have the most interesting shoes in the room. And you just took that from me. So, but it is about sort of, I loved what you said. It's not about fitting in. It's about standing out. It's about sort of creating for yourself a way to be very present and to show that confidence. So let's talk about the downsides of personal branding. I mean, I get it. I get, like, I hear all the time from people, well, I can't really get away with having purple hair. I do. I hear that regularly. How would you respond to that? Or if somebody came to you and said, well, it's great for you. You're an entrepreneur. You can stand out, but I work in a very corporate job.
I would say in 2024, or I'll say 2027, because that's where I
I
live.
noticed that.
um, we have permission to be our true, authentic selves. I think that we can all think back to the COVID years and how people really just came out as themselves, right? In business. And I think we have permission. We have permission to be mothers with children, noisy children in the background when we're on conference calls. We have permission to work from home, and at times someone's going to ring the doorbell and interrupt our meeting. Life is not stopping just because we're working, right? And so while I feel like we've been walking around with this professional, facade of we're always on, nothing's ever out of place, that's not real life. I think
Mm-hmm.
right now we have permission to walk in real life and still be professional and still be effective and still be people that others want to do business with. And so with that, I think that gives you permission to have purple hair and
I
wear
love
great
that.
shoes and whatever those things are that make you confident in who you are, because that is what draws people. That confidence, that energy. That is why that young lady came up to us and said, I want to be right here. I'll tell you something else. I went to a conference just a couple weeks after that, and I was being myself, living my personal brand. And every day there were people that came to my booth and they wanted to see me and see what I had on that day and talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that
Absolutely.
I had to come by and
Absolutely.
see you today. And you know
I love
what?
that.
If that opens a door, then I'll take it. I'll walk right through it every single time.
I love that. So I hear exactly what you're saying. And I'll respond as well in terms of permission. We have permission to be bigger than we thought that we could be, sort of in that pre-COVID thing. But the other thing I'll say is for those of us maybe who are men, or maybe who just don't feel quite as bold as Erika or Keisha, there are other smaller ways that really do, while they aren't butterfly glasses and absolutely amazing shoes, there are ways that I see people standing out. I see, really men wearing really colorful, interesting socks.
Yes.
I see bow ties. My
Yeah.
husband, who is a corporate attorney, who works at a downtown DC law firm, and trust me when I say he is not somebody who is going to go in one day with purple hair, partially because, if I'm being blunt, he doesn't have that many of them. But he wears these bright blue glasses. And whenever people see him all the time and they're like, "Oh, look at your glasses." And to me, I'm like, "Oh yeah, they're nice." Funny aside, when he first got them, he called me with them. When he was at the eyeglass shop, he called me with them and he said, "What do you think? Do you think I can get away with them?" And I looked at him and I said, "Honey, your wife has purple hair. Like, what do you think I'm going to say here?" And he got them. And every time people say, they stand out. People say, "Oh my goodness, your glasses," because they're just these bright, lovely blue glasses. And so, you know what? You and it probably, for us, it wouldn't be like, "Look at my glasses."
Sure.
But for a corporate attorney, he has created something that's part of his personal brand, something that sort of makes him interesting and enjoyable to talk to. So let's talk next about how you find that personal brand. How do you sort of create your own personal brand? I'm going to start us off, and I'm going to start us off with a don't. Um, and that's, don't create a persona that you're not. Like, whatever the brand is that you create and that you're going to live up to and exemplify, that has to really actually represent who you are and feel. This is very overused in 2024, but it has to be authentic to who you are.
I absolutely agree with you. Authenticity is what I heard you say. You
Mm-hmm.
can't pretend to be something that you're not. It will not serve you. Even if you try it, it will not serve you. What comes to mind is that movie Hitch, when one of the main characters is learning how to dance, right? And Hitch is
Mm-hmm.
trying to tell him the cool way to dance while he's on the other side just making a fool of himself. But that's who he was. That's who he was. And even though he did it Hitch's way, what happened when he got into the dancing setting? He made a fool of himself. That's how he got the girl, right? She loved it. She loved it because it was his heart, right? It was her way of seeing who he was. And I feel like authenticity is how we do that. So I absolutely agree with you. I think that whatever you choose, whether it's, signing or writing with a specific pen every single time, or carrying a particular, or
Mm-hmm.
a particular colored laptop, or the color car you drive, whatever it is, you just got to be true to who you are and make sure that it's you. It's authentically you.
I love that anecdote, and it actually it goes to the other thing, which I would say, which is, like, when you have those little things, lean into them, right? Like, so in your example, lean into the dancing like the crazy person. I really like bold patterns, and I really like purple, and sometimes I will look at myself as I'm walking out the door, and I'm like, well, I'm a kindergartner today because I've taken 5 different patterns or bold colors and just put them all together. And, like, but I'm leaning into it, right? I'm leaning into sort of that, like, sometimes visually chaotic but interesting persona, right? So it's really that's it for me. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that before I take us out of the video, Keisha?
Well, just this is such an interesting topic, and I know that every single person at one point or another has had to kind of process through these things, from how they style their hair, how to dress
Mm.
on an interview, how to show up on your first day, going into an important meeting. All of those things, we all have experienced them. I think that having this as a topic, though, is a great reminder that we can be who we are. We can be our diverse selves, and that is the value that we bring, right? And so don't leave it at home. I say take it
Oh, I
wherever you
love that. Don't leave it at home. Don't leave it at home. What a great statement, and what a great statement to end on. Thank you, Keisha, so much for joining me. Thank you to everybody who is still with us on this video. Keisha, if anybody is interested in talking to you about either your personal style or about, more importantly, reverse mentoring, how can they get in touch with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find, Dr. Keisha Benson Woods. They can also reach out to me on my website, Reverse It Mentoring. So reverse hyphen ITMENTORNG.com. ReverseItMentoring.com.
Which we will obviously also have below in the description. So for anybody who's enjoyed this video, I very much hope that you will subscribe to the Spring Insight YouTube channel. We put out great content every Tuesday, just like this, both for the government contracting community, but also generally for all sorts of subject matter experts. And if you're thinking about a new website or a new marketing program, please get in touch. Our website is springinsight.com and schedule a consultation. That URL is also going to be in the show description. Thank you so much.